Hi guys. We're gonna just give one more minute here for a couple folks to add, and we will get started. Appreciate you being here. All right, we're gonna get started. Little background, right? What does JBT do? First of all, thank you for being here. My name is Andrew Rickard. I'm the president and treasurer of JBT. JBT helps with four key things, and what we're going to talk about today is what are some key things that you can take going into this busiest month of the year from a credit report to make sure that you're assuring safe and secure financial transactions. Okay. But quickly, what are the four things that JBT helps with? We're going to help establish businesses. Okay. So we're doing a vetting and a verification for retailers, for suppliers. We're going to make sure that we're properly identifying who the principals of the business are, proper location, et cetera. So we're doing that business verification. That's important to you as a supplier because as you're running credit reports and establishing new business, you want to make sure that that pedigree information is essentially correct from jump, right from the very beginning. We're going to help you to find new customers, right? The JBT Red Book continues to be printed since 1884. The most comprehensive list of industry participants that exists today. That comes out every fall. That's the September book that just came out in 2025. There's ways for you to participate by purchasing lists, et cetera, but reach out if you're interested in more how to grow your business. Financial transaction assurance. We're going to make sure that by getting the data we receive and sharing it with you in an anonymous way, in a confidential way, that when you're making credit decisions, you're able to see is someone worthy of the credit you're providing, are they able to pay you, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to. And that if things really go badly, right, we have a collections department. Why is it important that JBT maintains a collection department? Not only are we better than the industry average at getting money back for you, but that information is essential, right? Because we're able to then share it on credit reports. So that's an important function. That's important. A little joined in June of this year as the new president and treasurer, but I'm a 20-year industry veteran. Okay. I utilized JBT credit reports for over 20 years. Okay. In that role as the executive vice president of operations at RDI Diamonds. I've spent 5 years on the JBT board, including 3 on the executive committee. Understand the organization. I understand what's important. I think it's essential that an industry insider is at the helm to help drive and talk about things because I understand what's at stake for both suppliers and retailers. You know, I'm not going to spend much time today talking about it. I don't think any actually, but I think we need to be better for retailers. And there's some programs we're doing down that path. So if you're interested in that, again, reach out. Our goal today is to talk about ways that you can extract more information from a JBT credit report and help you to avoid some common scams that are existing right now. What do we do as a JBT when somebody comes up and gets on as a new listing? We're going to do background checks. We're going to do Secretary of State's searches. We're going to do the UCC searches. We're going to understand if there were bankruptcies or claims. And I think what's important for you to think about is we have 140 years of history. We know if companies did other things. If an owner was involved in other historically other jewelry businesses, we're going to cross-reference. We're going to catch those things. That's important because those are, that's how we prevent, some frauds from taking place. I'll touch on that in a few moments. All right, so tips and key information from a JBT credit report. Guys, this is important. I'm going to say it probably 2 to 3 times in this seminar. 75% of the claims that we look at, 3 out of 4, the supplier never ran a credit report on the retailer. A lot of claims are preventable, but you got to run a credit report and you got to do some basics. When you establish a business relationship, so much of what's going to transpire and how things are going to go well or poorly are going to be right out of the gate what you do. Okay? So we're going to take you through some key tips and techniques and processes that you should be following to mitigate your risk as a supplier. You want to make sure that when you're shipping goods, you either get them back or you get paid for what they sell. That is an essential part of what the Jewelers Board needs to provide. But we need you to take an active role and do some work on that. All right. But many claims are preventable. because so much information, there's some red flags on credit reports. Let's talk about it. First of all, when you start off with a relationship, make sure that you or your salesperson, and again, I understand that in many circumstances right now, I'm talking to credit people, I'm talking to financial people, salespeople operate on their own path. That, listen, I'm a salesperson at my heart, but I'm also an operational person. I understand that distinction. I've run sales organizations for a long time. We need to always cross our T's, dot our I's, because salespeople won't necessarily do that. They're on to next, on to the next, on to the next. They want to make a sale today. If they're talking to someone in a store, it may not be a principal, it may not be a decision maker. Let's make sure that at least you are, and the principal or that decision maker is aware of this transaction taking place with a secondary level salesperson. You need to make sure that's a common place that we're seeing challenges, which are salespeople dealing with salespeople. There's no verification. There's no vetting of information. Sometimes principals don't even know that transaction was ordered, is taking place. A lot of fraud happens right there. Make sure there's a verification. Okay, that's important. Further, what we want to make sure that we understand the address, where it's shipping to. So much, guys, scams, frauds, things that go poorly are happening at the point of shipping. Are you shipping to the correct location? Does it match what's on the credit report? Does it match what's on the JBT report? If you are sending to a location that is not the primary location listed here, you need to make sure that you're getting verification from a principal of that business to do that. Again, we're seeing a salesperson or a secondary person or a straight scammer saying, I'm with this business, but send it here. Most common place that we see a challenge, make sure there's a verification of address and it's correct. Okay, that is a common place that you can avoid one of those challenges. Let's see. Next, legal records liens. We're going to do the UCC liens. We're going to do the Secretary of State searches. You want to make sure that you understand who else is in line on those types of things. If you're filing UCCs, again, UCCs are something that I would say is an interesting part of our business. Probably not enough suppliers understand the power of a UCC and how it can protect you. JBT has a phenomenal UCC service. I would encourage you, if you do UCCs, to look into it. I can tell you from my experience, having done and processed a number of UCCs in my past, I'm anywhere from a fifth to a tenth of the cost here at JBT from what I was paying in the marketplace. So it's substantial savings, and UCCs offer you a tremendous amount of protection. Reach out if you want more information on that. But the fact that we're doing that background information searches for you, that's something that would not come up in a basic Google search or anything like that. That's important. Location information. Here's what you should be looking at. Do they lease? Do they own? An owner of a business has more stability than a lease. Okay, that's a basic. But what is the term of the lease? If you have an expiring lease listed here on the JBT credit report, that should be a cause for concern and potentially a limit. Is there an imminent end? Is it a month to month? Those are things that as a business owner, you should be really considering and thinking about from a stability perspective. A building that's owned provides you more stability. Thus, to me, from a credit perspective, provides you more leniency, more upside, right? A month-to-month lease, that's a more risky situation. So you should be evaluating that as part of your decision making. Okay. This is a funny little visual here, but we have had a couple situations here in the last 18 months with businesses that were sent a secondary location. The retail supplier shipped to this location. They were essentially derelict, empty buildings that fraudsters and scammers were using to wait till FedEx arrived, dropped it on the front porch, came from around the corner, grabbed it, left. It wasn't a legitimate location. FedEx doesn't know the difference. They're gonna ship to a location that's listed on the label. Again, these are common scams. You want to talk about common scams? We have seen this one quite a few times. Secondary location provided by a salesperson. Again, scam from right out of the gate. No verification by the supplier of that location. They are using derelict locations, but again, they're utilizing these these rural locations or dilapidated buildings that things are still getting delivered to. Again, FedEx doesn't know the difference. They are delivering. This is a common place. So you need to make sure that you are you're ordering a credit report, you're verifying, if you've never received a payment, how are you going to do so, et cetera. All right. But this is one, again, we have some notes here, but we chased it for a couple of these claims. These are unclaimable here. These are things that we're not going to be able to assist you with. Other points of interest on the credit report. Insurance. I think this is one that's overlooked, but are they insured? Who's their insurer? A substantial portion of claim activity happens in shipping. Remember, once it's signed for, it's the responsibility of the signed for party. It does not become your responsibility until you receive it back. I would tell you a couple of tips. I would strongly encourage, if feasible, for you to establish a shipping station or location where you can absolutely, with camera, identify what is going into the package. When you receive items back, you should be opening them under camera. So if there is a dispute, you have things that are recorded. You have things that are able to be defendable against, if you will. So if they say, if it's a he said, she said, and you have a camera situation where something is opened under camera, whether it's you shipping it to them or receiving it back, that gets a leg up in claim situations. So I would strongly encourage a shipping and receiving station that allows you to record things, whether you're using a cell phone nowadays. You can certainly use an iPhone, but an overhead camera in a fixed location works as well. There's an investment there, I understand, but again, trying to provide you tips and techniques to avoid losses. A fixed camera will help you to do that and make sure that everything is consistent with a process of opening, whether you're shipping or receiving. Years in business. What's the formation date? Who's involved? Successor details are important. Was there a merger? And again, here you're also going to get historic information that is important to you. Is there a person who's been involved in other businesses that has left unpaid obligations, et cetera? So our 140 plus year history, that's one of the benefits that JBT has, is we have that lineage data and we've made connections. We just recently had a situation with a gentleman who reached out. He was from New England, wanted to open a new business, claimed he wasn't involved in other businesses. Listen, our vetting and verification process, we were absolutely able to see that he was involved in other businesses and left unpaid obligations. So this gentleman was trying to join. We stopped it and have identified him and put his name, flagged his name and his information. But this was a person who was trying to join as a retailer, was trying to go down a process of establishing himself in a secondary situation, had already done it, but essentially was a fraudster, was a scammer, and was trying to do it again. We caught it. That's the work that we do every day to help suppliers. But again, that would have likely not been found from most basic searches if people were doing things all internally without a JBT credit report. Again, general remarks and antecedents, very important here because, again, we're identifying if there's a criminal record at all with the individuals based on our background checks that will be identified. Burglaries, robberies in the store, natural disasters. We identified somebody that recently that had a number of burglaries, and a couple of them were questionable. Now, again, I wasn't the detective in those situations, but when a store's had a number of them, and there were some questionable, was it an inside job? Was it this? Was it that? Was it for insurance purposes? That's going to be identified for you, and you can make the decisions on your own behalf with the best possible information. That likely would not have been seen by you otherwise, okay? Business history, okay, who's the owner? Again, we had a scam that happened not long ago. A father-son, father closes the store, didn't report it to the jeweler's board. Son continues to order under that store. We had made calls. We didn't get responses. So our information in that particular case isn't great. And in this scenario, the son continues to order. So again, if you are aware as a supplier of a business that is changing ownership, of a business that is closing, please, I implore you, always inform the jeweler's board. we can then make updates and you're protecting your peers. So sharing of information is incredibly important through the JBT process. Yes, we have an army of folks doing the reporting, updating reports, and doing that work. But if you, as a supplier, are able to share information with us, it just makes our information better. Protecting one another is a huge piece of what we want to do here. And a great industry organization like JBT is helped by great partners. And that's what we want to do. We're helping you. Please help us share information. If you're aware of things and business changes, that's incredibly important for you to share. Claims and bankruptcies. I mentioned it early, because we have the collections department. We're listing claims. We're listing bankruptcy information, the amounts, the dates. It's so important that people, again, you're running reports. When I talked earlier about claims and suppliers not running a credit report, so many of those that I looked at, there were claim activity already on there. It would have prevented you from shipping. So again, do this basic step. Do that work to run a JBT credit report. You're going to prevent so much fraud. Well, Andrew, geez, credit reports are expensive. Guys, they're a cost of doing business. Okay, they're a cost of doing business. It's a $25 credit report if you're a standard member. If you're an interchange member and you're interested in learning more about that, they're half the cost. Okay? It's a cost of doing business. The average claim, guys, is 10 grand right now. 10 grand. Claims have gone down. Claim amounts have gone up in the last 3 years. That should be alarming to you. That means in 8 years, if I stop one claim, then I've paid for our dues here at JBT. Your dues are expensive. They're not expensive. They're not. In the context of what we're able to save for you, it's a massive investment. We're in insurance. Nobody loves to pay for insurance. But at the end of the day, insurance is a protection for you, and it's a protection for your business. Running these credit reports is something you have to make sure that you're doing, and you have a stringent and successful, consistent process as it relates to opening business doors and maintaining them, right? Not just a one and done, but how do you maintain? What's the business that the folks you're dealing with are in? Are they a wholesaler? Are they a retailer? Are they a manufacturer? Again, understand what they are, especially if they're multiple things. What products are they working with? What's the scale of their operations? Are they single store? Are they multi-store? Are they retail online? Again, these are all things that should lend itself to part of your decision making, and you want to be aware of. This is an important one, guys. Highest recent inquiries and highest line of credit. Obviously, you want to see what the highest line of credit is. What is somebody else giving them? If they're asking you for $50,000, is somebody else giving them $50,000? Are they extending and making those payments, right? But bigger than that is the inquiries. Okay, and so here's a very important tip. Maybe one of the most important tips I'll share today. Number of increased inquiries to me is an alarming red flag as a supplier, because what that can say to me is this retail has reached their credit limit with the number of people and is now out searching for more new lines. Again, I'm not telling you it's a hard and fast, always bad, but I can tell you that what I have seen is that an increased number of inquiries has typically been because they have met their credit limit with another significant number of suppliers. They now need alternative credit sources. They go out searching for more. A lot of people running reports as they should. You see now those inquiries. That is potentially for you a red flag. Watch the number of inquiries. Again, if you see a couple, no problem. I start to see 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I'm gonna slow a little bit and say, hey, what's going on there? What else can I look at? Let's get some additional information. Okay. Obviously, trade data. We would love to have more trade data. Again, I implore and encourage all of you, if you're a standard member, look into being an enhanced member. It greatly reduces not only your dues, it reduces your cost per credit report. You get access to claim and bankruptcy report, which is one of the most important reports we put out every week. Every person that you send trade data on, you will every month get a updated list of what their credit changes have been specific to your clients. Again, it's confidential. We're not sharing that information. Suppliers or jewelers will never be able to know who is who, but that is important information. Again, more trade data helps us. But again, now you're going to see what's in that last 7 months. What do we see in highest recent credit? What are their outstanding balances? Are they on time? Are they past due? What are the terms? And again, we're doing this verification and vetting with our supplier partners, and That's the calls a lot of times that we're asking for and getting verification on. So if you get a call from JBT, answer the call, answer our questions. That helps to make sure that the data is more correct. Okay. All right. So recommendations. Listen, get documentation up front. Get a signed open account form. Make sure it's from one of the principals on the credit report. Very important, because if things go bad, you're going to want that signature. When possible, secure a personal guarantee. When I talk to my collection attorneys, if we have to escalate to legal, they all tell me, listen, I can get judgments. It's about getting money. And money means I need to make sure that I have a way to secure payment. Personal guarantee goes a long way. Always get some additional product references. I would encourage you to do that, even beyond the credit report, if you can. But again, take them with a grain of salt, right? What do you really have there? I would say to you, maintain an annual review of people. The more you do business with them, the more you should be reviewing. People say to me, well, Andrew, I don't need JBT. I do business with the same people. That tells me you need to be more, not less. Because if you're doing more with less people, they're more important to you. Also, in my experience, means you tend to be doing a higher dollar amount with them, which means more risk to you. Do an annual review. Things change, guys. You don't always know what's going on in an individual business. We rarely know how people pay their bills. We can know intimate things about people, but we rarely know how they pay their bills. Do they pay them on time? Did they pay them late, etc.? So that's a common thing that most people don't know about their friends and relatives even. So let's not assume that just because we've done business with them for a long time that everything is copacetic, because things change. Recheck, every few months with people, and again, do a yearly check, okay? Real quick, I'll get through this here. Again, if things go wrong, we do have a collection department. What do you experience on that? 90 days, 120 days, are you seeking collection support? I would encourage you to keep it within the family. When I mean that, is keep within the industry. We're then sharing that information. Yes, it sucks that you may have lost some money with somebody, but keeping that within the family means one of your peers will not. Again, if we encourage all of our peers to keep collections internal to the industry, i.e. with JBT, that means we're sharing that information, and we're gonna reduce the number of bad apples out there. The bad characters will go down because they know that there's a short wind for them to take advantage. They won't be able to take advantage of a second person. That's very important. And again, the sooner you get us collections, the better. 90 days, 120 days. Beyond that is hard. I can again tell you from experience. Sooner than later on collections will be helpful. All right. Again, what we saw when we looked at collections, 700 active claims, about $7 million. So again, about $10,000 per claim, a substantial portion, 3 out of 4, 75%. Supplier never ran a basic credit report on the retailer they were shipping. Again, these are preventable. Let's make sure that we're taking advantage of those. Okay. We have certified collectors. We're doing, we're better than the industry average. But I'm also going to tell you guys, listen, statistically speaking, the collections world, you're going to get 40 to 50%. It's not a great strategy. It can mitigate losses, but it's not a singular great source. We want to do the correct credit and collection, the correct credit work up front. Let's run a credit report. Let's get a good application. Let's make sure that we're dealing with the principal. Those are the things up front that will prevent fraud on the back end. Okay. Again, just some last notes on this. I want to leave a couple minutes for we have about 5 minutes here, so I want to leave that for questions. Again, what I would encourage you, take a look at that credit report. Are you dealing with a principal? Is the address correct? Are they in a longer term lease? What is their credit situation as far as how they're paying others? Is there inquiries that you need to be looking at? Are those elevated? Again, they might be elevated right now this time of year. They could be searching for more things. So again, I'm not saying to you, I see inquiry increase, I stop, but it should give you pause. Be smart. A rated account, is going to should extend a higher level of credit than a non-rated account. I would encourage you as suppliers, encourage new retailers you deal with to join JBT as a retail member. We can help them to establish credit. Let's again, we're all in this together. We do better when we're supporting one another. So question, the stuff on the credit report is a lot to look for. How do you do it quickly? Yeah, I think time, right? Just repetition and time as you I searched and looked at credit reports for 20 years. It became very common. I knew exactly what I'm looking for. Does this signature match what I have on the open account? Does this address match? Do I have some basic AML information that I'm required to have right on my application? Does it match what I see here? Are they in the JBT? Is there any other history there? And again, I'm quickly reading through the notes, the antecedents, but I don't skip those things. It does take a few minutes, but again, I would encourage you, a few minutes up front will prevent a lot of fraud on the back end. And again, if you have secondary salespeople or credit people, make sure those credit people are keeping tabs on salespeople. Salespeople move quickly. They will take a yes. They love yeses. And so they, even if they're not dealing with a principal, they'll love to ship or love to sell. Let's make sure they're dealing with somebody that, again, is an authorized buyer, to make sure that we're getting and capturing a number of those things correctly. To me, this, I appreciate the question, but I don't think speed is a place here. That's the most important thing to you. To me, up front in establishing a credit relationship, do your due diligence. An extra minute or two of proper due diligence could save you a $10,000 claim. It's worth your time. It's worth your time. All right. Other questions, comments? And I see a comment about the Red Book. I appreciate that. Dominic's a longtime friend, great guy in the business. And yeah, Dominic, man, the Red Book is something I used when I started, and I love the digital app though now as well, right? I'd love to have the Red Book in my pocket. So that's certainly an easier path. Again, if you're interested in learning more about that, how to get the JBT app, reach out. Very low cost, great alternative to having the Red Book with you on the run at any given point. Can I call in and get help reading through a report with a JBT membership or reporting member? Absolutely. So if you need assistance, we are here as a resource. Reach out. Let us help you. Let us teach you. If you want to do a session with me and staff members, or if you have an organization and you'd like us to come out and speak at, give us a heads up. We know that JBT needs to be more in front of the industry. That's my job. That's the due diligence we're going to do, is to make sure that we're in front of more folks. Yes, this is an opportunity for us to help you, to make sure that you're getting the proper information that you need to properly read these reports. But again, what I would encourage you is, don't rush through credit. Don't rush through credit decisions just because you're busy. Taking an extra moment or two up front will prevent a lot of fraud down the path. Okay? Yeah, so a question that comes through is, I have other ways to vet people. I'll give you a quick story. I met someone at JCK, and, I certainly hear this from suppliers. Well, Andrew, I can do a Google search. I have ChatGPT, right? There's more information available to me than ever's been available. You're right, there is. But let me give you an example. I meet this guy at JCK. He's very well spoken. He was from the southeast portion of the United States. And he was there on the last day of JCK, which is interesting, right? Because, the Sharks are out on the last day. Everybody's hungry for that last minute deal. And this gentleman was looking to open doors, wanted a membership with JBT, and got some information from him, but then it was difficult. So my director of membership was doing a number of research on this person. We're doing our background checks. What we found was this guy, when he was at JCK, had gotten out of jail 4 days earlier on credit card fraud charges. He gave us a phony credit card. And so we, were able to flag this person and get that information in. But I'm telling you, I know JCK, and I certainly know JCK on the last day. This person was very well spoken. He looked the part. He had the proper information as a retailer that would have made him attractive to suppliers. And I'm confident that this guy walked the floor and probably was given goods. Now, we were able to, as he started, and we're going through this vetting and verification process to stop a bad character like that from becoming listed. We were able to identify him. These are the things that we're able to do. But when we ran a Google search, the guy came up roses. 5 stars. 5-star Google review of this guy. When we ran ChatGPT, same thing. He looked fantastic. So a basic search by someone saying to me, I don't need you, would have shown that this guy was fantastic. Paid his bills. Community loved him. He was great. Wasn't great. He'd just gotten out of jail on fraud charges. So, and he had other pending charges, by the way, in other states. So this was a habitual recidivist as far as fraud. We were able to capture and collect that information and prevent future scenarios from transpiring but somebody doing a basic Google search and just doing some small verification would have missed it, would have given this guy goods. He was a bad seed. He was a bad apple. All right. Any other questions, comments? Listen, we're a little over my number. I'm a minute late, but I think we covered a lot of great stuff. I appreciate everybody for being here. I wish you the best this holiday season. Please reach out to the Jewelers Board if you have questions. My email is Rickard, RICKARD, at jewelersboard.com. My direct line is 401-919-5613. If you have comments, questions, if you have suggestions on ways that you'd like to see JBT stay in front of the jewelry community, we encourage you to share those. If you have organizations you'd like us to speak at, we encourage that. Again, we are in this together, guys. The industry is best when there's a strong JBT, when we have strong and valuable supplier partners with folks like yourself, and when we're bringing in retailers into the fold, because retailers who are partners are taking their credit journey seriously. We know that. We're verifying, we're validating that information. That means that we'll have more people that are scored. That's good information for you because that makes your credit decisions so much easier. All right. Have a wonderful December, everybody. Happy holidays. Have a safe and secure and credit assured holiday season. Take care, everybody.